Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. Put that smile on your face. We are still the victors of the derby. Manchester is still red and there's lots of positivity around Manchester United. I hope everybody had a good day yesterday, good evening yesterday. I didn't get to enjoy my evening until about 9 o'clock because I had to do my Talk Sport show where the calls were inundated with Man City fans moaning like a teenager who's lost their iPhone. And, they were just apparently this always happens at Old Trafford. They always get scammed. Yeah, you beat us last year at Old Trafford. I mean, one defeat and they're in meltdown because they deserve to lose. It's as simple as that. Hassan Ghost says there. But look, we're going to fly into quite a lot of stuff this morning. We'll talk about fixtures to come. We'll take a look at the league table. But the first thing I really want to fly into is this. Came out from Eric. There's two quotes from Eric Ten Hag I want to talk about. This one, he wants new signings. He wants more signings in January, and I think this is completely logical. He says, with Wout, we have an extra player in the balance of the squad. It's what we need. I'm happy with that. So if there are more opportunities, we will be ready for that and looking for that. But it has to be, once again, the right player. And I think that is so important when you read it, that the most important bit is, I'm happy with bringing in Wout, but we have to be ready for other opportunities, and we are looking for that. And I think the hint is what he said about Wout. He's an extra player in the balance of the squad. We need it. I'm happy with it. And if there are more opportunities, we're ready for that and we're looking for that. So, I don't think it's a surprise for me or anybody else that, I think Ten Hag is the man for Manchester United to rebuild us. And I'll be talking about these balls behind me in a minute. One's a Champions League ball and one's a Europa League ball. And people seem to be obsessed with whether I think we're going to get top four now, because I've always been that ball, Europa League. Am I going to move towards that ball? I'll talk about that in a bit as well. But going back to what Ten Hag said, there's so much to like about this manager, and there is no doubt that he is riding the wave at the moment where he's a bit like Rashford. Everything he hits goes in. It's working very, very well for him, of course. And there will be a time where it doesn't. Hopefully not for a long time, but there will be bad periods. Everyone has a bad period. Of course they do. But everything he does at the moment is spot on. Everything he says is spot on. And it's interesting because you watch Manchester United yesterday and Martial goes off at half-time injured. Marcus Rashford, you're worried about him. Casemiro is absolutely superb. And can I just say about Casemiro, without question, Player of the Year contender across the Premier League. Player of the Year contender. I can't think of a player in the Premier League that is playing as well as he is. Now, other clubs, rivals will say, well, you're talking nonsense. Rodri was better than him. I don't think Rodri was better than him yesterday. Rodri's a fantastic player. Arsenal will talk about their midfield. But this is a Manchester United side that's had no midfield for 5 years. And suddenly we're winning games. We've beaten Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Spurs at home. We are consistently winning games. We are consistently winning midfield battles, and we are consistently defending well. And he is consistently creating chances. It was his pass for the offside goal as well. Casemiro, for any Man United fan, you take him out of that team, forget anything. Forget Carabao Cup, Europa League, top four, title race, forget it. It's gone. It's absolutely gone. Casemiro has been an unquestionable revelation for Manchester United. He is a leader, he is a dominator, he's a playmaker, he is a motivator. I mean, look at the way he celebrated the goal. He is, without question, our signing of the summer, and there's been a couple that could contend for that, but his consistency, he doesn't seem to have an average game. He's consistently world class. He is the signing of the summer, and for me, he is Player of the Year, Premier League, so far. And people can cry and moan about that. I'm watching him every bloody game. He's unbelievable, and if you take him out the United side, I think our season falls apart, which is exactly why I think Eric Ten Hag is talking about other options, because I think in the midfield, that is where we need it. He's been absolutely fantastic. But going back to what I was talking about there, Eric Ten Hag, we spoke about this yesterday. Martial goes off at half-time. All right, you've got Weghorst, but he's not Martial. He doesn't play the same as Martial, and it's Weghorst on loan from Burnley. We can't just go, well, Martial's injured all the time, Weghorst is going to replace him. And even if he does, who's the replacement for Weghorst? And people say, well, you can put Rashford up front. So we're gonna burn Rashford out as well, are we? It's the same as Eriksen. Oh, Eriksen can play at number 10 and number 8. Well, he didn't play at number 10 very well yesterday, did he? Rashford's on fire. If you lose a couple of players, this season falls apart. And I think that is what Ten Hag is talking about here. He's very, 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 very good at saying what he thinks, because ultimately he can say what he thinks. In a very short period of time, Eric Ten Hag has become the most powerful manager at Manchester United in the last 10 years. And people like Richard Arnold, John Murtagh, the Glazers, they don't know how to control this guy because for the first time in 10 years, they've got a manager who knows what he's doing and he knows more than them. I think they would try and control Solskjaer in this. They'd be like, oh, Ollie, don't be talking publicly about wanting more players. We're not getting anyone else other than Weghorst. What does Ten Hag do? He talks about, yeah, I'd like to bring more players in this month. I'd like to bring more players in. I'd like to bring the right players in. That doesn't help Man United. That puts more pressure on the board. That puts more pressure on the director of football. But Ten Hag doesn't care because Ten Hag is sat in a situation that you can see where when you look at what is going on with Manchester United and you look at how we are, specifically look at the league table next to me now, that doesn't lie. That doesn't lie. We are comfortably in the top four. We could, if we beat Palace and Arsenal lose today, we'd be level with them on points. I don't think that will happen, but it could happen. And then Erik Ten Hag is meant to sit there with a smile on his face and go, everything's fine. He'll be as frustrated as you are when you look at what he's done. You look at how close you are to a title race, how comfortable you are in the top four, how you're still in 3 trophies, but you're playing 3 games a week for 5 months. And, you know, every person who goes down, you're like, is that my season over? You know, Casemiro went down at the end of the game yesterday and you could see the concern on Ten Hag's face because he's like, in 1 second, our season could be over if we lose the wrong players. And that is why he is saying publicly, I would like more players in, because it would be criminal. It will be absolutely criminal if they do not give Ten Hag what he needs in January and this season falls apart because of squad depth. That would be criminal, because I genuinely think you can't even label what's possible for Manchester United at the moment. Zane says, I think people are getting carried away. Let's see how you deal with Partey and the masterpiece today. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to your game today. Casemiro winning mentality has brought some light to players around him, especially Fred. Fred plays with a bit more freedom and it works, says Brian. The amount of fear Rashford's injury scare sends us says a lot. Losing Rashford and Casemiro could send us out of the top 4 quicker than we can imagine, says Jay. Look, mate, I thought it was a fantastic result for Manchester United yesterday. But I was stunned by both goals because I thought they were both offside, and obviously they weren't. And I think that's where being in the crowd, it's always better to be in the crowd. It's always better to be in the ground. And, you know, for the fans that were in the ground yesterday, it was fantastic. I was speaking to Beth and Adam and a few others. They don't know whether Rashford's offside on the winner, and they don't know whether Bruno's offside, so they celebrate. And that, you know, for us at home, we're so indoctrinated into VAR because it's so much part of the viewing experience that, you know, I was a bit pissed off yesterday with the way it was officiated, but ultimately we got the result. But yeah, you know, United, we were well organised in the first half. City had a good 20 minutes at the start of the second half, and then we took the game away from them in the last 20 minutes. It was quite a tight game, and we deserved to win it. But yeah, you're right. You know, you lose a couple of players and you're in trouble. I'm the country that can't donate. Your shows and football have gotten me through a lot of tough times, says Harrison. Cheers, Harrison. Zane says Martinelli cost 6 million and has been the best winger this season. Thus, he's player of the season. Zane, this is not the right. Zane, I know you're very excited about you. This is the Manchester United channel. Go and find whatever shit channels you've got for your club, because you're not dominating about Arsenal. I'm sorry. You've got a big game today and we're playing you in a week. We're talking about Man United. We're talking about Erik Ten Hag. Rumour has it Fred is still on Kevin De Bruyne. And ultimately as well, Zane, you lost the game this season against us. Own it for another week at least. It's your last warning, says Ladios. Anyway, back to Manchester United. So Ten Hag said something else as well. I think you might be quite interested in this. He said this after the game yesterday. So he's openly spoken about he would like to bring more players in January, and we'll talk about what that might be in a minute. But he said after the game yesterday, we are in a process, a long way to go. We are happy with this result and we're going in the right direction, and it will give us more belief. We have to work good, invest a lot, and if you want to succeed, we have to improve much more. He knows that team needs major investment. I feel that, and I will talk about Arsenal for a moment. If Arsenal win the league, I feel that their fans and even Arteta privately would be stunned that they've won it so soon. I don't think Arsenal thought they were going to be challenging for the title this year. And effectively, Manchester United could be in that position where if we did somehow get into a title race, which I think we'll talk about in a minute is difficult. If we did, I think we'd all agree that's way ahead of schedule. Why is that? Well, Liverpool have fell off a cliff. Man City seem to be a bit one-dimensional with Haaland. When it works, it's amazing, but when it doesn't, they struggle. And that's opened the door for consistency. And the two most consistent teams in the Premier League this season are Arsenal by a long way, and then Manchester United at the moment. And that's why they're up where they are. But both clubs would look at it and go, we need more support from our board. And that's what Ten Hag is saying about invest. We still need another midfielder of quality brought in. We still need an absolute quality striker. Whatever Weghorst does, whatever Martial's injury record does, we all know we need an Osman bringing in or a player of that quality. And I think that's why it's interesting to look at what Ten Hag might want in January. Arsenal have still 2 games with City. They are not really far. Man United not competing on place from 1-4. Mohamed makes a good point there. Look at that league table next to me, and there's a lot of things to be positive about this Sunday morning. Arsenal are 6 points ahead of us, I believe. I think they are 6 points ahead of us at the moment. They're 6 points ahead of us at the moment. If they were to win today, and they've got a game in hand. So if they were to win today, they would go 9 points ahead of Manchester United. Now, if you want to be in a title race, you don't want Arsenal to win today, of course. But if they win today, they're ahead of us. Something to watch out for the London derby. If Saka, Saliba get a yellow, they miss United games somehow. Someone confirmed. That's true, SK. How many players do you think we are away, and who are we wanting to bring in? I'm going to talk about that in a minute, Smitty. And talking about records as well, I think Marcus Rashford's broken a couple of records. I think he scored, is it 8 or 9 at home in a row, which is a record going back to the late 50s with Dennis Viollet. And I think he's also scored in 8 consecutive games, which no one's done since Cristiano Ronaldo in 2008, I think it is. So amazing what Rashford's doing at the moment. But look at the league table. There's many things to be excited about, and this will lead into what we need to do in January and what I think Ten Hag wants to do. So look at that league table. We're 6 points behind Arsenal, but we're 1 point behind Manchester City. If Arsenal were to drop points today or even draw, and we were to beat Crystal Palace, we could go into that Arsenal game next weekend 3 points behind them if they lose and we beat Palace. 6 points behind them if we beat Palace and they win today. But if they draw today and then we beat Palace, we're 4 points behind them, I think. Quick math, 7. Yeah, 4 points behind them. Now, obviously you've then got to go and get a result at the Emirates. But the interesting thing is what Mohamed said there. Arsenal have got to play Man City twice. We've played Man City twice. So, you can have a 6 point gap, but we've played Man City twice. You haven't played Man City yet. So, look, Arsenal win both those Man City games. Title's theirs, isn't it? But Arsenal don't win those games. Man United can close up on Arsenal, and so can Man City. So, this title race is very much still open between Arsenal and Man City, and they, for me, are the favourites. I don't put United in a title race because I'm still desperately wanting to pick that Champions League ball up and say we're in a top 4 race, because we are, and we're favourites for it. But I still think that the Europa League ball behind my shoulder is a possibility. Having said that, I am leaning towards the Champions League ball because I think the way things are at the moment, it looks really good for United. But, we're 3 points clear of Newcastle. We've played the same amount of games. Liverpool are 10 points behind us. We're in a very, very, very strong position. And the only reason, and you can clip all the crap up you like if you're a negative, toxic person, and why would you be a negative, toxic person if you're a Man United fan at the moment? I mean, who are these Zooms who are hunting down United fans, trying to create division? Saw it twice with me last week, people clipping me up from like 8 months ago, and then taking me out of context on top 4, and I'm like, are you not, you're so obsessed with what a United fan is, when you're not the United fan, because you spend your time, when this club is in a good position, trying to cause division in the fan base. That says more about you. These people who clip people up and say, oh, this is not a real fan, this is not a real fan. They're not the real fan, because they are creating division and toxicity in our fan base when everybody's actually really happy. And whatever toxicity you're trying to cause, please go back to March, watch the amount of videos we did as a community on social media demanding, like a political campaign, that Ten Hag got the manager's job, because there was a very big realistic chance that he was going to be Poch who got the job, because the media wanted Poch, the ex-players wanted Poch, and this community for about 6 weeks relentlessly never shut up about Ten Hag. Now, whether the club listened to that, I don't know, but he wasn't the option they were looking at, because they were being told by experts. Remember, Richard Arnold was consulting Gary Neville and people like that. Pochettino was what they were being told. They went with Ten Hag. So don't talk to me about toxicity in this fan base, when this fan base, especially this community, was relentlessly pushing for Ten Hag for about 2 months. And now look at where we are. So you can shut up about oh, they're not real fans, they're negative. You live in 5 years ago when Mourinho was in charge, or Ollie. I think that this community especially is ridiculously positive because there is 100% behind Ten Hag and has been from before he even came here. So if you're looking for toxicity, I think you need to jog on, because I don't think United are in that place at the moment. I see United fans coming out and who've been relentlessly horrible about people like Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. They're phoning up on TalkSport and saying I was wrong. Ricky's saying I'm wrong. That is refreshing. That is positivity. People who've been writing players off left, right and centre are suddenly going, you know what? I was wrong. They've been fantastic. And a lot of it's down to this manager and how he's brought the best out of them that I never thought was there. That's positivity. We're in a good position. It's just, what can you do with that? What can you do with that? What are the realistic expectations? And even Ten Hag cannot give you them. He cannot. He says, we're in progress, we've got to go game to game, and that's why he's mentioning investment. Isn't Osman injury prone, says Luke? Surely we don't want another player. No, Osman is not injury prone, Luke. He's had a lot of injuries around his collarbone and his jaw. You're not injury prone with those types of injuries. If he's had 3 knee injuries or 4 hamstrings, that's injury prone. But you can't be injury prone because you've damaged your collarbone and your jaw. His injuries they're not really injuries that are things of concern. No, he's had a few injuries, but they're weird injuries. They're not like leg injuries. Sean says Arsenal are the best suited team for us to play. I was more worried about yesterday than next Sunday. Ten Hag's got the boys cooking. It'll be a very difficult game, Sean, next week. But I'm not thinking about Arsenal. This is the mistake that Pep made. He started talking about United on Monday. He had to play Southampton on Wednesday, and they lost both games. I'm not talking about Arsenal. This is the Ten Hag mentality we as fans need to adopt. I'm not talking about Arsenal. Arsenal will take care of itself. Arsenal have got to play this afternoon. I'll be watching that. Watch along on That's Football. Be a bit of a scouting mission, etc. But it's a big game. We're playing Crystal Palace on the TV on Wednesday night. That's all I'm bothered about, because Arsenal becomes irrelevant if we don't beat Palace. So it's all about Palace. That's all I'm interested in. Crystal Palace. Arsenal is a week today. It's there. I'm excited about it. But Palace ain't easy. Should we sacrifice Europa League and concentrate on the league and the cups, says Emma. And here is a thought. If a miracle happened and we won the league, then Ronaldo would get a medal. I like this thought, though, says Glenny Boy. Look, let's combine two things here. Are Manchester United in a title race? And what is it that Ten Hag is looking for? And if you've joined in a little bit late, I don't like repeats, but I will just whack this up on the screen, because sometimes it's speculation and sometimes it's from the manager's mouth. This is from the manager's mouth. Wout gives us an extra player in the squad. It's what we need. If there are more opportunities, we're ready for that and looking for that, but it has to be, once again, the right player. That is Manchester United's manager in mid-January saying, I want more players. It's whether I can get the right player. When you've got a manager like Erik Ten Hag, who has done the job that he has done over the last few months, you have to back him. And he is saying, I want more players. He's not saying I'm going to get them. He's saying it's got to be the right players, but he wants more players. So what is he looking at, and how does that fit in with winning or getting into a title race? Right here, right now, if I could keep that Man United squad fit and in form, i.e. not tired, I think we could get into a title race. I'm not saying we definitely are in one, but if everybody stays fit and everybody stays, fresh, I think we could get into a title race. But obviously, that's not going to happen. You're not going to keep them all fit for 5 months, and they're not all going to stay fresh 3 times a week. So we're not in a title race in my mind because of the reason I've just said. The team is good enough to be in one. You look at De Gea, you look at Varane, Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Bruno, Rashford. These players are absolutely essential. They are the players that can win you a title. You then supplement that with Dalot when he's fit. Wan-Bissaka can come in and do a job. Malacia can come in and do a job. You've got Martinez, who we're waiting to come back to the form where I think he can be a really important player. Eriksen, probably a bit out of form at the moment, but a really important player. Fred supplementing that. And hopefully Sancho's back soon. Martial stays fit. Weghorst supplements. Anthony keeps improving. So look, we can do it, but everybody needs to be fit. Everyone needs to be fresh. And I don't think we can do that. So how does Ten Hag then stay in the title race? And you can't give up on the Europa League. You can't do that. And he's not going to do that. And he shouldn't have to do that. He can't just go, we're giving up on the Europa League to focus on the league. That's not right. That's not right for a club like Manchester United. He should be able to say, I want to win it all because I don't know what I'm going to win. I mean, and that's the mentality I think he's got. So what are you looking to bring in? And I think to do that, you have to analyse the team, because I think a few things have changed. When I was thinking about it last night, Dale says it's great to have this feeling again, great team spirit. As per Bruno, we work for each other now. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, Bruno said that last night. We're not individuals anymore. We work for each other. And obviously that's a very simple thing, but it's very true. Must be something in Maguire's contract that demands him being captain. It's not normal team or managerial behaviour. What is the explanation, do you think, says Zenna? I don't want to go negative, mate. Nothing's going to change my positivity. It is odd that he comes on the pitch for 3 minutes, takes the armband, and then he's, but I don't know whether it's odd. Maybe Azpilicueta does that at Chelsea, but look, it's irrelevant. He's a peripheral player. He's not an important player for us. I'm sorry, he's not, and neither's Lindelof. Like they are bent. McTominay the same. They have their place in the squad, and they can be useful. But if we're using them, we're in trouble, because that means better players are injured, and we need the better players to stay fit. So it doesn't bother me at all. When I look at that team and I look at what Ten Hag wants to bring in January, if we go through it gradually, you'll see. We don't need a keeper because we've got Butland in now as Dubravka's gone. We no longer are looking for a right back, and that's probably the right thing to do. Delo won't be out for long, and Wan-Bissaka has done really well. So you just don't check, United are no longer looking for a right back. They came into January expecting to get a right back. They don't need that anymore. We don't need a left back. We've got Malacia and Shaw. We don't need any centre backs yet. That's for the summer. Shaw can play centre back, Martinez, Varane, and if we get really bad, we've got Maguire and Lindelof. So we're covered across the back five. We don't need anything there. On the wings, we don't need anything there. We've got Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony, Sancho. Whatever you think about those four, you've got 4 options on the wing. So we don't need anything on the wing. In the midfield, we need a midfielder, basically. We need somebody to come in. And what type of midfielder? I mean, you could go defensive, you could go box-to-box, you could go centre-attacking midfielder. But we do need one. The loss of Donny takes us down to 5, which is Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, Fred, McTominay. But the drop-off from Eriksen, Bruno and Casemiro is too big. Now, Fred can do a job, but McTominay, I just don't... I think that's a cliff. So we need another midfielder. We all know if Casemiro drops out the team, we haven't even got a centre defensive midfielder. That's the thing. We haven't got one. You're going to put McTominay there because there is nobody else in that squad who can play centre defence. It's not just that Casemiro is, for me, one of the best players in Europe at the moment. We don't even have an understudy. There is nobody. Nobody can do that role. McTominay just cannot do it. He hides. Casemiro drops in between the centre-backs, says, give me the ball, and pings a 40-yard ball. McTominay hides behind the striker. He's just not, I feel bad for the lad. He is not a holding midfielder. So we haven't got a holding midfielder. And Casemiro can't play 3 games a week. So I think that's an area. Bruno and Eriksen can go number 10. I mean, look, we just need another midfielder, basically. We need another midfielder, and there's another position we need as well. Fred deserves credit. He was brilliant. I think he got credit, Manchester. I love people who say that. Such and such deserves credit when everyone spent 24 hours giving him credit. Like, everybody said he was brilliant yesterday. Everyone gave him... I've read loads of stuff. Player ratings from all over. Everybody gave Fred credit, mate. I think Fred was... Most people said to pick Fred in this game. So he got credit before the game. He played in the game. He played really well. And he replicated what he did against Spurs. So we got a good Fred performance there. He can still be inconsistent, but Fred is certainly a player that we need. What about Ward-Prowse for the 8? We're not going to do that in January, Reece. If the new financial rules go through, I think cheaper alternatives might be useful. Ward-Prowse is a good player at the wrong team. But we can't do that now, Fozzie. Can't believe I'm saying this, but if we had a player like Pogba to play alongside Casemiro and Bruno, we would be unstoppable. No, we wouldn't, because he's injured, Shah. Hi, Mark. Look. I get what you're saying, and I was always a fan of Pogba, but I've seen this a few times. Oh, imagine what we'd be like with Pogba. We wouldn't be like anything. He's been injured since he left, so there'll be no difference. You're speaking hypothetical, and we need real. We're not buying Ward-Prowse. Pogba's not here anymore. What can we bring into that midfield now to give us a chance? Now, I think Tielemans is an interesting one. I don't think Leicester want to do it because I think they want to stay up, but that would be interesting. But we need somebody to come into that midfield because we've only got 5 players. Ericsson looks tired at the moment. I don't know why that is. He can do the number 10 role. So he can, you know, if you want to rest Bruno, you could play Casemiro, Fred and Ericsson. But I do think we need another midfielder. We also need another striker. I know Weghorst has come in, and I know Rashford can play there, but you can't be doing that too often. If we're all right on the wings because we've got 4 options, you can't be then using one of your wingers as your striker because then you're going thin. Weghorst will come in. He's the big unknown, quite literally. Rashford can go there, but he's better off the left. And Martial, well, should we have a conversation about that? I think we need another striker. I really, really do. I'll come back to Martial. Hi, Mark. Is a happy and great Sunday to wake up. It was not the win that I loved because we have been beating them, but not the last game. This feels different, says Vivek. Thank you very much, Vivek. Alan Varela from Boca would be a quality understudy for Casemiro, future CDM star, says Harry. And ideally, we need a CDM, but if we don't, sure as centre-back and Lissandro as CDM is not bad at all. We might have to get creative like that, Mohammed. I mean, that's a fan theory, but yeah, that might happen. We've got no money in January, so we're going to have to be creative. I've seen people talk about Isco, Trossard. There are options out there, but it's just how much money we've got. But I don't think we're looking for a right-back anymore. We're certainly not looking for a centre-back. I don't think we need a winger. It's midfield and striker. And funnily enough, they're the 2 positions he wants to solve in the summer with big signings. Like, they're the big signings United want to make, midfield and striker, because he needs them now. That's why we're being linked to them in the summer. Sometimes people don't put 2 and 2 together and get Matic. It's the players Ten Hag wants now are the players we're buying in the summer that everyone knows. He needs a midfielder and he needs a striker. What United are trying to do is say, you know, we like to do our business in the summer. That's when we like to do our business. We like to do our business in the summer. And the business they want to do in the summer is a striker and a midfielder. Wake up and smell the coffee. They're the players Ten Hag wants now. And they're the players that might stop us achieving what we can do this season. You know, next year, Liverpool might be back. Man City might be stronger. Chelsea could be stronger. Those 3 teams could be back next year and in the top 4. People always talk about next year. Here's a life lesson for you. Stop planning for the future and live in the now. And that's what Man United need to do. You don't know what next year is going to be. People talk about progress, but if Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea are back strong next year, that's a harder year for us. We have an opportunity, just the same as Arsenal. For whatever reason, the worlds have collided and Man United are in this position that is ridiculously exciting and positive, and there's potential there. Don't sit there and go, we like to do our business in the summer. Because in the summer, next season, we might be 5th, comfortably 5th. I hope we're challenging for the title. I think with this manager we can do, but we can't just assume things are going to be better next year when there are clearly teams massively underperforming. The time is now. The opportunity is now. Do not waste this opportunity by not getting in what this manager needs right now. And I think we need a striker. Now, there are strikers there. We've missed out on 2 that I think would have been perfect. You know, players that can play in multiple positions like Gakpo and Felix, but they're gone. There are options out there. My concern is Casemiro is 1 yellow card away from a ban should he start against Palace, says Ronit. Well, this is the thing as well. I never consider that. I always think about injuries, but suspensions could hurt us as well. You can't beat Arsenal without Casemiro. In my mind, you can't beat Casemiro. You can't beat Arsenal without Casemiro. You probably can't beat Arsenal without Rashford either. So, but one player I just want to talk about very, very quickly because I don't think it. I think everyone spends a lot of time talking about him, the player. I like him. Ten Hag again said at half time we struggled without Tony because it's the way we play. And I know there's people in Old Trafford who were getting on his back yesterday, and I saw another journalist calling him lazy again, and I just think this is really useful. This is really useful analysis of a player in a Man United shirt who the manager keeps telling you is fundamental to how we play, and at half-time said we were bad in the first 20 minutes because we missed Martial, and then you've still got credible journalists and fans calling a Man United player lazy. I mean, but we're the toxic ones, people. You know, we're the toxic. But it doesn't matter. You can say it about Martial because he's not got an English passport. So you can you can do that apparently. Absolute nonsense. And laziness borders on something very dangerous. That's why they use the word lazy, because it's got connotations of other things when you're talking about players who aren't from England. So I don't get it, especially when Ten Hag for twice in a week has spoken about how important Martial is to the team, how we press from the front, the organisation, the build-up, the runs he makes. Twice in a week he's come out of it. But, so-called know-it-alls who didn't want Ten Hag are telling you that, he was lazy. Ridiculous. But besides that, you can value a player in a United shirt or you can't. That's up to you. The point is with Martial, and the biggest negative, it's got nothing to do with, how he plays. It's got everything to do with the fact that, was he injured 3 times in the first 2 months of the season? I think it was 3 separate injuries, hardly ever played. We've come back now and he's had 2 injuries in a week. He didn't train all week until Friday. Missed the game against Charlton because of an injury. Trained on Friday, came off at half-time yesterday with an injury. Could be the same injury, but he's injury-prone. You cannot rely on that. You've got 16 days left of this transfer window, and it's what it's like. It's like having a cut on your finger and it's starting to get infected, and you can see the infection moving up your finger, and you go, "It'll be fine in 2 weeks." It won't. It won't. Get to the doctor now. It's going to get worse. It's going to go up your arm. You're going to lose your arm. Martial's a bit like that. This is a problem that we want to go away that's not going to go away, and it's horrible. It's horrible because Ten Hag really values him. He's never really had a run for Ten Hag, and he cannot get fit, and he's got an opportunity to be Man United's number 9. But we have to be ruthless. As I said yesterday, if your boss is being attacked by a crocodile and you're thinking about running to help them, and then your phone pings and you've got a new job offer and they want you to start now, get in your car and take your new job offer. Your last boss was a shit. They've not helped you. You've got to be ruthless, and Manchester United need to be ruthless. It's very, very obvious that transfer window closes in 16 days, and if Martial's out for 2 months after that, you can't moan. We need options. And Weghorst is an option, but he can't be the only option, and he can't play every game either. Imagine Martial gets... What I'm trying to say is, and Andrew says, "I'm curious, Mark, do you think big name players could come into this squad and make us better? I'd begun to believe targeting big names wouldn't work." The right players, Andrew. It's not about big names, it's about the right players. If Neymar was the right player, then he would work. But yeah, you're right. You need the mentality, the work rate, the discipline. Mark, I've done that one from Harrison. Sorry if you've mentioned it, but Danjuma from Villarreal is looking for a loan to the Prem. Is that someone you would consider? Yeah. Well, Joshua, look, I don't think Danjuma's perfect. We've been linked to Danjuma before, but we've just got Weghorst on loan from Burnley. I'm not going to be precious about they're not good enough for Man United. I would never go for Weghorst. I don't think Ten Hag would, but he's having to go for options that are within his budget, which is very limited. So Danjuma would be very welcome at Manchester United. He might not work, but at least it's an option. And yes, I agree with that sort of option. People mentioned Thuram. But as I said, if Martial was out for 2 months, and we don't know what the issue is now, he could be out for 2 weeks, he could be out for 2 days. But if Martial's out for 2 games, he misses Palace and Arsenal. They're massive games, so he can't play. We can't be in this position for the rest of the season. You've got to bring something in. Now, Joe Hugel, Charlie McNeil, very exciting young players, but they're not ready to play up front for Man United in the first team. So you're going to use Weghorst, or you're going to use Rashford, or you're going to do a false 9 stupid thing. So, we've got to go and get a striker. It's sad, but we have. You cannot rely on Martial because his fitness levels are appalling. So we've got to go and get a striker. Who do you think we should sign? Any players in mind, says Abdul? Well, look, Thuram gets mentioned a lot. Makuku at Dortmund is out of contract in the summer. Could you do something there? Somebody just mentioned Danjuma, Trossard. There are options, and people will say, "Oh, I don't want that. It's not good." What I wanted was João Felix or Gakpo. They've gone. We've now ended up with Weghorst. So I'm not, like I say, what we get isn't probably going to be the player that we should have got, but we need to bring people in. I enjoyed the TalkSport show, but was sad to see how much gambling was pushed. As someone with historic gambling problems, it should have had trigger warnings, says Ballon. It's got nothing to do with the United stand, mate. I'm not talking about that on here. If Weghorst eligible for Crystal Palace, especially with it being a week 7 game, I think Weghorst is available to play against Crystal Palace, unless anyone can confirm. I think that's more of a Fantasy Premier League thing. I saw somebody say Sancho at number 10. Great to see Jadon Sancho at Old Trafford yesterday. Hopefully he's not too far away. But you know, you need to remove your head from the clouds. This is a player that's struggling, a player that's struggling to play for Manchester United in his designated position, and you want to start giving him one of the most demanding positions in world football. I mean, Bruno gets shit every week and never stops running. Jadon Sancho fell out of the team from Ten Hag because he wasn't tracking back as a winger. You know, the first thing for Sancho is to get into a matchday squad and then get in the team and then perform well in the team. And you want to turn him into a number 10 between now and the end of the season. He might not be performing on the wing until March. He is not a solution for number 10, mate. It's a completely different position, and you are completely naive to the journey that Jadon's on at the moment. Like, you know, there is a lot of work to be done for the club, for Ten Hag, for the fans, and Jadon Sancho. And he ain't coming back as a number 10. He's got to establish himself back in the team yet, doing a job in his position. Sal Martial, says Ahmed. No one's going to buy him. SK says loanable Isco, Savic, Lemar, Rabiot, and Witsel and Ramsey. Right, you know what? I would never have gone anywhere near Rabiot. And what I love about this, and I know people in the chat are finding it frustrating, I find it quite funny, is the amount of people in the chat who don't actually screw their head on. You're talking about players we can't get. We didn't even have 15 million to get João Felix on loan, and we didn't have 37 million to get Gakpo, and they were Ten Hag's number 1 targets. People are talking about Ivan Toney. They're talking about McAllister from Brighton. Like, we're talking about January. We're talking about what we can do in January to help Ten Hag and give him more options to hopefully get into a title race or whatever else anyone wants. You've been looking super handsome lately, says Mamba. Thank you very much. But yeah, forget those types of players. You are talking about, you know, creative loans. I think that Rabiot was a disaster signing in the summer because it would have meant no Casemiro. But in January, now Casemiro's here, Rabiot on loan, I'd be very happy to bring Rabiot in now on loan. So there are definitely options, but the sad thing is it comes down to money. And if I could summarise it very shortly, Man United's success in May will be dictated by not Ten Hag, but by this board and whether they spend. They wrote the season off last January and we didn't finish in the top 4. If they write the season off this January, and they have, you know, Weghorst is not a transfer. I'm not having that. Welcome to the club. I hope he does really well. I really, really do. But that is not backing your manager. 2.5. And apparently, you know what amazes me about Man United? We've spent 2.5 million on Weghorst's loan. Apparently, we've doubled his wages from 60k to 120k. Now, that's not confirmed, but apparently we've doubled his wages from 60k to 120k. What is it about United and stupid wages? It's not winning the lottery. I think there's somebody who sits in an office at Man United and does the wages and goes, just put whatever number you want, we'll pay it. I don't know. But look, I want Weghorst to do well, but that's not backing the manager. Let's back the manager. Let's bring some players in. Rabiot is a potential problem, Savage, in relation to his mentality, yes. But we were looking at him before. Look, unfortunately, the players we need to bring in, we will probably never discuss as a community because you've got to be really creative. No one was talking about Weghorst last week. So there may well be a midfielder somewhere that ticks all the boxes that no one's talking about, that can come in on loan for 5 months. And to be honest, I would be looking in the French league, I'd be looking in the German league, I'd be looking in I don't really want to look in the Dutch league again, I'd be looking in the Spanish league, and I'd be looking from top 4 down. There must be some players who are at clubs that really maybe have a bit of financial problems, their season's over. You know, Besiktas didn't want to lose Weghorst, but they were able to unsettle him, Man United, to force him out of there. So there might be something like that we can do for a little short period of time. Crazy Dog says Taylor from Ajax. Yeah, again, you're playing career mode. We don't have the money, and Ajax would probably start the bidding at 200 million. For the summer, Tyler Adams and Brandon Aronson, if Leeds go down, understudies for Casemiro and Bruno, says Mohamed. Mohamed, look, if we get new owners, the summer looks good, but I'm thinking about now. And finally, are Man United in a title race? Well, I'm struggling to confirmed that that we'll get top 4 yet. So, and I know this is to many people's frustration, but the only reason I never thought we would get top 4 has got nothing to do with Ten Hag or the players. It's to do with the squad and the squad depth. And I still am terrified every time Casemiro or Rashford or Varane goes down injured, because I'm like, the replacements. I mean, I like Anthony. Let's be honest, that second half performance yesterday was as good as Haaland's. Like, I didn't notice him. And my point is, if Rashford gets injured, you're relying on Anthony, Garnacho, Sancho, and they're 3 very different players at very different levels of consistency for different reasons. I think Garnacho's fantastic, by the way. Casemiro, we have no replacement. So I still worry that we're not halfway through the season yet as well. There's another, 19 games to go? 19 games, that's 57 points? It's a lot of points to start saying we're definitely going to get top 4. So I don't think we're in a title race, and I'm more than happy to say we're not in a title race, because, deep down, I would love to be in a title race, and I would never admit that anyway. Arsenal fans have been doing it for 5 months. I know Arsenal fans who say they're not in a title race because they're just terrified of acknowledging it. And they are in a title race. They're favourites for the title. So, look, if you think we're in a title race, fair play. Well done. We'll know a lot more a week tonight, but at the moment, I still don't see how we can be in a title race when we're still in 4 trophies. If we're in the title race, that's a trophy. Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Premier League. 4 trophies with that squad, 3 games a week over 5 months. I just don't logically see how that's possible unless they want to bring a couple more players in the next 2 weeks. So we're going to find out a lot more in the next 2 weeks. And I subscribe to Ten Hag's mentality. 1 day at a time. 1 day at a time. I don't need to label this, and I certainly don't think he wants to, and I don't think he wants his squad to. 1 game at a time. The focus is to win every game. If you keep winning, we'll win it all, but 1 game at a time. I think we should go for Ziyech or Havertz, left-footed attackers that can play across the front 3, says Kieran. Well, the thing is, Havertz, I wouldn't go anywhere near Havertz, mate. Sorry. I misread that. God, no, he's crap. D-Sarf, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. Can Weghorst play on Wednesday, or is he ineligible because it's part of the same game week he was not registered for, says Ballon. I don't know what this game week thing is about Weghorst. I think everyone's playing Fantasy Premier League. Just because that Palace game is part of your Fantasy Premier League game week doesn't mean it's part of real life. That game against Crystal Palace was from a completely different game week. So I don't think the Premier League works like that. I think Fantasy Premier League works like that, but I don't think the Premier League works like that. The Premier League registration limit for Crystal Palace will be Tuesday lunchtime. Well, he's been registered, so he should play. I think people are just getting confused with their Fantasy Premier League team. But I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure he can play. Thanks everyone for watching. We have an 8 o'clock. I don't know. Sunday night show. I sometimes do it at 8 o'clock, and sometimes I come out. Sometimes I do it at 7 o'clock. What I am doing is Arsenal versus Spurs at 4:30. Massive game. We're live for a watch along on That's Football. Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. I'm sure many people know about that, but just type it in and subscribe. We'll be live at about 4 o'clock for that. Best outcome is a draw tonight, says Reagan. Thanks everyone. I've really enjoyed the show today. Make sure you smash a like, and please do subscribe to this channel. We're live every morning at 10 o'clock, every night at 8 o'clock. All the watch-alongs, all the previews, all the breaking news, the United Stand. Thanks everyone for watching. We've got some big announcements to make for you actually in the last 2 weeks of this January transfer window. Can't say too much, but there's numerous things going on which we'll be letting you know about. So keep your eyes peeled, subscribe, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. You're fantastic, you're positive, and you wanted Ten Hag before anybody else. Never forget that. You're not toxic. Let the people moan.